It's not easy to find out that you've been lied to. It's heartbreaking when that person turns out to be your partner for 10 years. I, 37, male, and have been married to my wife, 36, female. We have been married for 10 years. We are both working professionals in the IT sector and we have no children. Me and my wife have been happily married for 10 years, but since the last few months, my wife has started acting differently. At first, I thought maybe I was overthinking, but as time passed, it all became too obvious to ignore. We work for different companies, but our offices are in the same area. We have the same lunchtime, and we used to go for lunches together quite a few times. Our colleagues also used to accompany us sometimes. My wife stopped coming to lunch with me 6 months ago. At first, she told me she's busy with work. Then her boss called an emergency meeting. I let it go in the beginning, thinking these were genuine reasons. She started coming home late as well. The reasons were the same. Since we're in the field, I understood that the workload could be heavy. My assumptions were confirmed when she was typing something on her phone at dinner one day. I pulled her phone from her grasp to set it aside, since we don't allow phones to be used during dinner. She became terrified and stood up to get her phone. Nothing like this has ever happened before. Since the start of our relationship, we both believed that trust didn't require us to share our passcodes. If we truly trust each other, we don't have to keep tabs on what the person is doing. Till that day, I never even felt the need to check her phone. She told me she was just texting her sister because her sister had a bad day at work. I told her that I got it, and we kept eating our food without talking. What she did made me feel bad. Being scared wasn't necessary if it was just her sister. There was a problem, but I couldn't just tell her that. This time, I knew she would come up with another excuse. I did not know what to do. As she went to sleep that night, I kept thinking about what she could be hiding from me. In our entire marriage, we've been there for each other through thick and thin, and suddenly she's acting differently.
Hey everyone. Unfortunately, basically everyone who is watching these videos isn't subscribed. It would mean the world to me to quickly get out of the full screen video for 3 seconds and press that subscribe button. It's free, and you can unsubscribe anytime. Sorry for bothering and thank you so much if you subscribed.
I thought I'd just talk to her in the morning. It's better to communicate rather than come to conclusions by myself. When I woke up the next morning, my wife was not in bed with me. The washroom was also empty. It was not like her to wake up before me. I looked for her in the kitchen, in the garden, but she was nowhere to be found in the house. I got worried. I called her, but she didn't pick up. Just as I was leaving the house to look for her, she came back. Her cheeks were flushed because of the cold. I asked her where she went so early in the morning. She told me she couldn't sleep, so she went for a walk in the park near our house. She kissed me and then went inside to make coffee for us. Just as we were getting inside, I heard a car start up nearby. It was quite loud. I don't usually hear this sound in my neighborhood. Just as the engine started, I saw my wife getting tense, but she covered it up instantly. When I got in my car to go to work, I couldn't stop thinking about my wife. I had no idea what was going on. John, my friend, was also coming out of his house. His little kid was holding on tight to his arms. He waved back when I did. I was going to leave, but I stopped to talk to him for a while instinctively. It's been a while since we spoke. When I asked him what was going on in his life, he told me something that really shocked me. John takes his son to the neighborhood park every night, but it was closed for maintenance. My wife told me she went for a walk in this park in the morning. That really nailed it to the wall. My wife lied to me. I went back home instead of going to work. I had to find out what she was keeping from me. I looked through her closet for something, but there was nothing there. To say I was frustrated would be an understatement. My wife's laptop was left on the table. I turned it on and checked her email. It did not contain anything. I looked over a few more things but didn't find anything. Another shock of the day came just as I was about to turn it off. This one was 10 times bigger. She got an email at her company's mail. I didn't check her work email because I didn't think there would be anything there, but there was. My wife had received a random email to meet her in a cafe really far from the office. The email address didn't have a name. It was just a random username. This person had emailed her just the location and time. It felt quite secretive. This did not make sense to me. Why was my wife meeting this person? Why did she lie to me in the morning? There are so many questions and no one to answer them. It's been 10 years since we got married, and I thought we were quite happy together. I could have asked my wife, but why would she tell me honestly when she lied to me in the morning? Her actions had planted a seed of doubt in my head. One that wasn't going to go away until I figured out what was going on. I decided it's better to stay quiet and wait till the evening. I wanted to know if she told me truthfully that she's meeting someone or fed me more lies. I didn't have to wait for long. She called me in the evening, telling me that she had to work late for an office meeting her boss had scheduled. I couldn't shake off the uneasy feeling. It was the second lie my wife had told me today. When did my marriage reach this phase when we started lying to each other? I decided it's best to follow her and see for myself who she's meeting. I went to her office just in time to see her leaving. In her car. My heart was pounding in my chest as I quietly trailed behind her car. Her car wound its way through the city while I followed her discreetly. She reached the location mentioned in the email. The lights of the cafe cast a warm aura on the sidewalk. I parked my car a safe distance away, hidden in the shadows. I watched her enter the cafe with a soft smile on her lips. My stomach churned when she hugged a man who stood up as she entered. I was frozen while another man was embracing my wife. My mind raced. How long has she been lying to me? I thought of the moments when I held her in my arms and she told me how happy she was with me. Was all that a lie too? I could have gone inside and demanded an explanation. But I decided against it. I thought it'd be best to let her continue this ruse. I wanted to see how many more lies she fed me while lying in the same bed with me. I wanted to see what else would happen with this mysterious man. I followed her back to our home. I waited near our home after she reached home to get inside. She welcomed me with a sweet smile, like it was completely normal to come home after lying to your husband. I wanted to ask her why she'd been lying to me. I wanted her to look me in the eye and tell me that it was nothing. I wanted her to soothe the thoughts of betrayal swirling in my head. But I couldn't because I knew that she wouldn't tell me the truth. I continued my surveillance. I followed her when she went for lunch with this man and fed me lies about her hectic work schedule or something else. For a week, I saw her meeting this man and having meals together. They hugged each other and then went their way. I did not know what to make of this. If she wasn't doing anything wrong, why was she lying to me? I didn't have to wonder for long, because one afternoon, when she told me that she's stuck in a meeting, she was actually on her way to a very fancy hotel on the other side of the city. I followed her. I thought maybe she's just having lunch with him in the restaurant, but my heart broke into a million pieces when the mystery guy entwined their hands and they went to a room together. I couldn't control myself anymore. I knocked on their door. The mystery guy opened the door shirtless. I saw my wife lying in bed, waiting for him. The smile disappeared from her face when she saw me standing on the other side of the door. I felt like I lost everything in that single moment. I didn't say anything to either of them. Consumed by heartbreak, I left the hotel and made my way home. I sat on the couch in the living room. My thoughts overwhelmed me. I felt a mix of anger, heartbreak, and confusion all at once. I don't know how long I sat there when the front door opened, and my wife came in. She panicked, that was visible. "You don't have to lie to me anymore," I told her quietly as I wiped my tears. I didn't have the energy to listen to any more of her lies. She came and sat beside me. When I thought she wouldn't say anything, I was about to get up. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I asked her how long this has been going on. I wasn't even sure if I wanted to know the answer to that question, but I had to know. She told me it started 8 months ago when she went out of town for a work conference. She met this guy who used to work in that branch of their company. We were just friends in the beginning. She told me with a shaky voice. I asked her to continue, knowing my heart wouldn't be able to take what was coming next. She told me that they got drunk on the last day of the conference, and the desire for excitement led them to bed together. She told me that she felt very guilty the next morning and decided it would never happen again as both of them were married. She came home and lost contact with him, but when he was transferred here 6 months ago and they started working together, one thing led to another, and they couldn't stop themselves from starting the affair again. She told me it all just began as a yearning for something different. As she told me how she went behind my back and lied to me, my trust shattered. She went to meet him that morning when she told me she had gone to park, and he dropped her off in his car. I was devastated. I thought I knew my wife well, but she had been leading a double life all along. The entire foundation of my marriage crumbled beneath me. I went through the day with a blur of emotions. I was not in any condition to make any decision. I asked my wife to give me some space. We lived in the same house without talking to each other. I did not know whether to salvage our marriage or walk away from this betrayal. My wife kept telling me that she's sorry and asked for forgiveness. She told me that she has ended her affair and we can seek counseling, but I felt like my wounds were too deep. Even though the betrayal broke my heart, we went to counseling together. I thought maybe we could still salvage our relationship. We went through various counseling sessions, but I couldn't escape the image ingrained in my head of that day of that hotel room. Who knew how many times they went to some hotel while I waited for her in our home? Our therapist urged us to communicate with each other, but I just couldn't shake the hurt and betrayal she had caused me. The trust one placed in her was irreparably broken. Counseling didn't help in subsiding my pain. The pain was too raw to handle. I decided it'd be best to walk away from this toxic situation. We sat down, and I told her that I could not be with her anymore. Tears streamed down her face, but she had to face the consequences of her actions. I cannot shield her from the result of her own doings. She told me that she'd move out of the house. I didn't stop her, as it was best for her to stay away. I sat in the yard as she said goodbye. Movers came in to take her luggage. I saw all of it happening in front of my eyes. I saw as my marriage of 10 years ended in front of my eyes. She left it to me to decide when I had to file for divorce. After she moved out, I went through my days numb, too overwhelmed by the emotions. I kept thinking if this was my fault, maybe I could have done something so she didn't feel the need to go somewhere else. I continued my counseling sessions. Even though my marriage failed, I still wanted to soothe the pain in my chest. It took time, but the sessions helped me understand that it wasn't my fault for what happened in our marriage. My counselor suggested that I find new hobbies. I didn't have the mental energy to try anything initially. With a little push, I started finding interest in new things. I started picking up hobbies I had neglected while I was busy with my marriage life. It was difficult, but it felt peaceful to start rebuilding my life again. The pain started to subside with time. We filed for divorce on mutual agreement. She told me that she was deeply sorry for the hurt she had caused me and was willing to wait for my forgiveness. I hope we can at least be friends again, she said. I told her that maybe, with time, we could be friends. We started our separate journey for self-discovery. We navigated through divorce and separation while finding our path to healing. Being alone after 10 years of marriage was oddly different. The home felt too empty to be alone. It felt strange not to have plans with someone. I started taking care of my mental health and physical health. I started reconnecting with my old friends. I never had the heart to tell them about my wife's affair. I didn't want to paint her image in a bad light. I still had a sense of loyalty to her. Our divorce proceedings went quite smoothly, and we parted ways forever. It was clear to me that we could not be together again. I didn't think that I could be with someone again. I didn't just give 10 years to our marriage, I gave all of me. While my wife went out to seek excitement, I was busy thinking about our future. My trust cannot be repaired, and my heart is too broken to fall in love again. I hope that everyone reading my story understands the importance of trust in any relationship. A single lie can unravel the strongest of bonds. I ran into my wife 6 months later in the grocery store. We both ran into each other when we were getting hot chocolate in the same aisle. Seeing her after all this time didn't cause me as much as it did in the beginning. The counseling sessions were worth it, I thought in my head. We got divorced, and you finally started drinking hot chocolate, I said to her teasingly. I loved hot chocolate, but she never liked it. It reminded me of you, she said with a smile, which seemed like she missed our marriage life. I smiled at her, and we left her there. Wanna have it together? She asked quite hesitantly. I was about to decline, but maybe I needed to see if I could survive in her company without my chest hurting. I smiled and told her sure. We made our way to a nearby cafe, this time she followed my car. We ordered 2 hot chocolates and had small talks. Strangely enough, it felt oddly nice to talk to her without any hurt or pain. She has broken all the promises we made to each other. My trust cannot be repaired again, but I wasn't going to let that dictate me for the rest of my life. I think in my heart I had forgiven her, but forgiving her didn't mean I was going to place my trust in her again. That ship had sailed when she went to bed with another man. My fear of another betrayal still sits with me. It will take time to finally let go of it. I was just going through one day at a time, it was the advice my counselor gave me, and it really worked. I just hope, with time, I can let that fear go completely.